Hi everybody, in today's video I'm looking at Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny, and this is an all-time instrumental guitar classic. It's been covered by lots of the greats, so people like Jeff Beck, Brian Setzer, The Shadows, Danny Gatton, and now by me. And this one's been on my to-do list for quite some time, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to approach it. Should I try and look at the Brian Setzer version or try and play it like Danny Gatton? I can't really do either of those things. So in the end, what I've done is put together my own modest arrangement, which I hope you're going to enjoy. I've tried to keep it interesting but playable, and there's a lot of stuff to dig into here, so I think this is going to be a bit of an epic video. I'm going to take you through the basic harmony and melody. I've got loads of great chord voicings and licks and fills that I'm going to show you, and as always there are going to be lesson materials available on the Patreon page. So I've written out my arrangement in notation and tab, and my backing track is also going to be up there. So let's get started. I'm going to play through my arrangement and then we'll discuss what's going on. Now, just before we get started properly, I just want to tell you a little bit about this track. And it came out in 1959, and Santo and Johnny were brothers. Santo was a steel guitar player and he was accompanied by his brother, I think, on a regular electric guitar. And this is very much a steel guitar piece. Steel guitar being a guitar that you play with a steel bar acting as a slide. Usually it's a kind of laid down flat, and I think this particular track was recorded on a Fender triple neck steel guitar, and it's not an instrument that I know that much about. I have got an old lap steel guitar kicking around somewhere that I occasionally use, but it's not something I've ever studied particularly deeply. And this tune was a big hit for Santo and Johnny, and even today you still hear it everywhere in adverts, film soundtracks, and it's one of those tunes that you will know it even if you don't know who it's by. And as I've said, lots of great guitar cover versions of this, and many of those versions people are trying to ape that steel guitar sound on a regular guitar. So you've got lots of people using harmonics and the vibrato arm stuff, and I think the Jeff Beck version that I mentioned, he is actually using a slide And I've got a little bit of that in my version, but for the most part I'm just trying to embrace the fact that I'm playing on a regular electric guitar, and I'm just trying to find stuff that works and feels good on the guitar and just try and bring out the beauty of the track and this beautiful melody. So let's get started, and I'm going to take you through my arrangement in quite a bit of detail. And even if you don't want to learn my arrangement note for note, I will be talking about more general ideas, concepts, licks that you can take and use in other contexts. I'm just going to begin by outlining the basic chords and harmony. This is a really important first step when you're learning any piece, is to understand the basic chords before you start getting into the fancier stuff and all of the licks and that kind of thing. Now, the original tune I think is in the key of C sharp or D flat, but just about everyone plays this in the key of C major when they're doing cover versions. So I'm doing it in the key of C major today. I think that works really well. It just seems to sit really nicely on a regular guitar in that way. And for the most part, the chords for this tune are a repeated 4-chord cycle, and it's a 1-6-4-5 chord progression. So starting on the 1 chord, which is C major, and then the 6th chord, we're just sort of counting through the notes in the C major scale basically. So C, D, E, F, G, A is the 6th chord, and the naturally occurring 6th chord in a major key is going to be minor. So you've got A minor, and then the 4 and 5 you've got F, and then G. So it's that 4-chord cycle. So very common kind of rock and roll chord sequence, and playing it with kind of a 12/8 feel. I think that's how I will notate this one. So you're feeling 4 beats in a bar, but each of the beats is divided up into 3. So you've got that kind of 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 4 and 1. Again, a very common kind of rock and roll kind of ballad feel. And another interesting thing about this one is that often the 4 chord, instead of playing the naturally occurring major 4 chord, we're actually playing an F minor. So you've got a minor 4 chord, and that sounds like this. And that's a big part of this tune, I think, that minor 4 chord. It's a little bit more unexpected, and there's just something about the sound of that 4 minor chord. It kind of tugs on your heartstrings a little bit, and that's responsible for a lot of the mood of this tune. So you just do need to listen out for that. It's that 4-chord cycle, but for the most part it's that 4 minor chord. Then occasionally you've got the 4 major chord, I think at the end of the introduction, and then at the end of each of the verse sections it goes from the F minor to the F major instead. So that's something you need to listen out for and be aware of, because that's going to affect your note choice when you're playing melodies or when you're soloing over these chords. Introduction then, and this is what I played. So just outlining those basic chords. I'm starting on a C chord, and I'm playing this C chord here. It's this A form bar chord, and just arpeggiating it. So, and just feeling that 12/8 rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just going up and down that chord shape. So starting on the root, and then hitting the top note, and then descending. When I'm playing these kind of rhythms, as far as the picking goes, I tend to play down, 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 up, up, up. And then we go into the A minor chord, and I'm just playing the root note, so the open 5th string. And then I've just got a little soul lick or fill. So I'm thinking out of a chord shape. This is something that I quite often do. So you've got an A minor bar chord here in the 5th position, and then just playing this kind of a lick. So double stop the 5th fret on the G and D strings, just hammering down at the 7th fret on the D, back to the double stop, and then over to the E. And then we're going to F minor, and I'm just playing the root note, and then going into this shape here. So I've got 6 on the D, and then 5, 6, and then 4 on the top string. And what have we got here? I suppose it's an inversion of an F minor chord. So one way of thinking about it is you've got a pair of F minor triads stacked on top of one another. This shape here and this shape here, that the root note is here, this F at the 6th fret on the 2nd string. So it's a really useful shape, and I'm actually then going down to here, down 1 fret. It's the same shape, but now this shape is functioning as a type of G chord. In fact, we've got a G6 chord, so it's exactly the same finger shape, but now the notes, the intervals are functioning in a different way, I suppose. So we've got root 3rd, that's the 6th, and then we've got another root note on top. So this is a really versatile little shape, this one. It can be different things depending on the context, depending on what the bass note is doing. But here we're going from an F minor down to a G. So then I'm playing this signature melody from the tune using harmonics. So on the original recording, I think it's played an octave higher. I was going to try and do that on the guitar, but some kind of limited ways of doing that. Then there might be some kind of way of doing it with harmonics like that. Maybe, but I can't really pull that off. I mean, someone like Jeff Beck would be able to do that. But I decided to stick with harmonics here, which is a little bit easier. So we've got harmonic at the 12th fret on the 3rd string, and then 7 on the D, and then 12th fret on strings 1 and 2. So if you've not really played harmonics before, the idea is that you just place your finger directly on top of the fret, just touch very lightly, and then release finger pressure as soon as that harmonic starts to ring. And then to the A minor chord, I'm just playing this A minor 7, so open, and then bowing at the 5th fret, and then so a pair of double stop thirds here, so outlining the F to the G. So at the end of the introduction, we've got F major to G major, and I'm just playing F and an A just on the middle pair of strings, sliding up 2 frets to the G. So that's my introduction. Adding some vibrato arm flourishes where it feels good. I was originally thinking about doing this on my Telecaster, kind of Danny Gatton style, but I do like having the vibrato arm when I'm playing this one, so I think it works well on a Strat or a Jazzmaster or something with a whammy bar on it. Next we've got the main theme, so the A section, the verse, whatever you want to call it. It starts like this. Most important thing here is the melodies, which is so if you like, you could just simplify it and just play those melody notes, but what I've chosen to do is to harmonize the melody with the underlying chords. So the first chord I'm using it's that same shape that we just had down here. So this time I'm using this as a C6 chord. So we've got 10, 9, 10 and 8 on top. If you like, you can play the root note on the low E string. Just bring your thumb round over the top. That's our chord. The important thing when you're harmonizing a melody is you've got the melody note that you want on top of the respective chord. So we want a C chord, and we want that C note on top, and then we're going to A minor, and we want this G note on top. That's our melody note. So what I'm doing is just playing a C triad. So a C triad is actually part of an A minor 7th chord. So by playing that, it's giving you kind of an A minor 7 sound. And again, if you want, you can just play the root note. Here you've got the open 5th string available, so giving you a nice A minor 7 sound. Then we've got this bit, and I'm just harmonizing that melody. The melody note is on the second string. I'm playing this. So you can harmonize that in thirds, so you've just got a note 1 fret higher on the third string. And then, in fact, I'm also playing a note on the 5th string as well. This is a really useful little shape. It's something I use quite a lot. So we've got thirds on the 2nd and 3rd strings, but I'm doubling the top note an octave lower on the 5th string. So it's just kind of fattening up the sound. So it's like you've got an octave here, and then you've got the harmony note on the 3rd string. And I think that's really effective with this tuning. I mean, I got that from the original recording. Those are the notes that I'm hearing played in the original steel guitar part. So I think that works really well. And then we go round again, the same thing. And then so we're going to C here. I'm just playing a C triad, maybe with the root note played with the thumb. Breaking up that triad, playing the notes separately, coming down to this A note, playing a little fill. This is similar to the little fill that I played in the introduction, just those kind of soul, Jimi Hendrix style, if you like. Then going to F minor, so just trying to go to a nearby F minor shape. Again, it's a triad, so I'm always talking about triads. This is how useful they are. You can use them all the time when you're playing these kind of arrangements, and if you know your triads really well, you can just find shapes that are close by, and it gives you a nice smooth sound. So if I'm going from A minor, just go really smoothly into that F minor sound, and I've got this F triad here. That's 6, 5 and 6. And then just taking that shape down 1 fret. This is the F minor going to, this is a G sound I'm going for here, and I've just got a double stop, so 5 on the D and 5 on the B. So, and then we can play those harmonics again. And then at the end of the first A section, I've got a little fill, and this is what I played. So this is a little kind of open string lick. I mean, you hear this quite a lot in kind of country contexts, kind of Albert Lee and those kind of plays. So I'm really just coming down a major scale. So it's really just that, but I'm making it a bit more interesting than that by playing some open strings where they're available, and that just creates this nice kind of sustaining sound. It's a bit like holding down a sustain pedal on a piano. So I'm kind of coming down here, and A, G, F. Rather than playing the E here, I can play the open high E string, and you let that ring, and then we come on down D, C, open B, I've got an A, open G, then F, E, and then a D. And if you play it quickly and cleanly, at the end of the phrase you've got 4 open strings still ringing. So that's my first A section. I'll just put that together for you. And then really I'm just repeating that for verse 2, but doing certain things in a slightly different way, trying to add some variations and some different fills. So I'm starting the same way. playing this slightly differently. So I've got these same third shapes that I was using before, but I'm throwing a little bend in there. So I'm starting 7 and 6, moving up 2 frets, and then you're bending both of those strings up a semitone. So a little bit tricky. So try and get that as in tune as you can. It's a little bit difficult on a Strat where you've got a floating bridge, because you push the strings up and the bridge kind of goes down and it goes slightly flat. So you just kind of have to get that as close as you can. And then repeating. And I think I actually had a little fill in there as well. So coming out of that initial shape, I'm just sliding up on the B string to the 12th fret, and I'm still holding down the 8th fret on the top string. So you get that nice minor second sound, that dissonant kind of interval, something I enjoy using a lot. So, and then just coming down the A minor 7, just arpeggiating those notes individually. So. And then that's all the same as before. I then threw in a little fill, so just kind of minor pentatonic stuff really. So 5 and 7 on the D, coming over to this E, and then moving down to the 3rd position, and then going to F minor, and rather than play the full F minor chord, I'm just playing a little triad shape, adding this melody note, this D, and then this shape here, so 5, 4 and 5. This is part of that G chord, it's that G6 sound. Just taking that down chromatically and arriving back home at our 1 chord, so 2 open and 1, that's just a C triad. So just wrapping up that section with a little double stop, F and A, and then G and E, and the harmony changes slightly at the end of that section. We've just got C, F, back to C, so it's that, I believe that's called a plagal cadence, just going from the 1 to the 4 and then back again. So let me put all of that together. This is verse 2. Okay, onwards to the bridge, and I hope this is interesting. I'm kind of slightly worried this is going to be too long and boring a video, but I hope that those of you who are going to try and learn this tune properly will appreciate the detail. I do think it's important to actually understand what's going on in a piece like this, otherwise you may as well just be reading numbers off a tab sheet or something. So in the bridge, it departs from that 1-6-4-5 harmony slightly. The bridge actually starts with the 4 chord, which is F, then it goes 4 minor to an F minor, then to the 1, which is C, C7, then it repeats, F, F minor, and then it goes to G, or G7. My approach here is the same as before, so obviously you want to bring out the melody, but you can support that melody with notes from the appropriate chord, and usually you want your melody note to be the highest note in any given chord shape. So I've got this to start with. So the actual melody is this. So that's going to be the highest note in each of these chords. I'm starting with this F major bar chord at the 8th fret. It's got the correct melody note on top, which is the A. And then I still want that F sound, but I want an E on top. So you can play an F triad and then place that E on top. 2 descending melody notes. Then we're going to F minor. That's the melody note, and I'm just harmonising that with an F minor triad. So 10, 10, and 9. And then we've got this. And we're actually changing from major to minor, so the melody note is staying the same. It's this E, but instead of the major sound, we've got the minor sound. So I've got an F and then an A flat, the minor third in there. So it's that kind of minor major 7 sound, because you've got the major 7 as the highest note. So it's a really kind of beautiful sound. And descending melody notes. Then we're hitting C, so just a C triad. And then the melody note is going up to an A. And then I want that C7 sound, so I'm going for this shape here. So 8, 9, and 8. And I think I just had this little fill in here again, outlining that C7 sound. So 5, 4, 3 on the 3rd string, and I've got this E note here on the 2nd string as well. Then we go around again. Now we're hitting the 5 chord, so G. I'm just playing triads here. So that's a G triad, 9, 7, and 8. And I'm hearing that on the original recording. It's kind of going from a G up to a B flat and then back down again, so I'm just shifting that triad shape. So that's the entire bridge. If I just put all of that together, we've got And next I played a little solo. So this isn't in the original arrangement. I kind of threw in an extra 8 bars so I could just play a few fancy licks, sort of wow my YouTube viewers with some chops. Although in fact I'm not trying to play in a particularly chopsy way. I wanted to kind of keep it melodic and tasteful. So this is my little solo. I mean, if you wanted to stick to the original arrangement, you can just cut this a bit out altogether and just go to the final verse. But let me see what I did. So I started off with that's just the main melody essentially. So I'm now bending up to the C note from the 11th fret on the B, coming down to G, and then so I do like this lick actually. So some country bending. I'm bending a G up to a G sharp. I've got this A sharp, this B flat on top. This is kind of giving you that F minor sound. I'm bending into the minor third. Now I'm going into this. I'm bending at the 3rd fret on the 3rd string. I've got this F note on top. I've just got some kind of major pentatonic stuff here. I think I came down here, so it's just another triad thing, really. A minor triad, descending to an open 5th string, maybe a little cheeky harmonic in there, 7th fret on the 4th string. Now we're going to F minor again, so I did this. So it's kind of slightly jazzy stuff here, I suppose. So over the F minor. Now, I'm really just thinking out of chord shapes and triad shapes here, which is something I do all of the time. So we've got an F minor triad here, or an F minor 7 arpeggio, and we're really just playing around that shape, bending into the flat 7, and then this is quite a nice jazzy lick. This is played over the 5 chords, over the G or the G7 chord, and I've got this kind of jazzy flat 9 in there, so and that's suggested by the melody to the tune. I think it hits that note, so it's kind of an altered dominant sound, I suppose. So again, thinking out of a chord shape here, so G7, that's your G7 arpeggio, and you can just throw that flat 9 in there. So the flat 9 is this nice kind of tense altered note. It's quite an easy note to find because it's just 1 fret above the root. So we've got, there's our G root, go up 1 fret, you've got that nice tense flat 9. So that's the basis of this lick. And I'll resolve that to the C, to the 1 chord, and then I'm into this run of 6. So this is all quite straightforward, just diatonic 6 essentially. So just from the C chord shape, just thinking out of the chord shape really, playing 6 on the 1st and 3rd strings, climbing up, and then hitting this double stop here. This is A minor, and then we want the F sharp minor sound. So with all of these 6, you're trying to hit the chord tones. So very often when you're using these shapes, you want to resolve to notes that are in the chord. So you can, one way of thinking about 6 is they are partial triad shapes. So if you think about your C major triad, I'm just kind of playing the outside notes of a C major triad here as well, and then here, that's the outside notes of an A minor triad, and then here, that's a partial F minor triad. So hitting those all important chord tones. Then I had this little diminished idea. So this is again something you can do over the 5 chords, so over the G or the G7. If you want that flat 9 sound, you can use diminished or diminished 7th chords. And I'm not going to go into all of the theory of this right now. That's maybe something I can do in a future video, but it's something you've got available. So here, this little shape here, 7, 6 and 7, it's a partial diminished 7th chord. If you play the 6th fret on the 4th string as well, you've got a full diminished 7th chord. And one of the magical things about diminished 7th chords, of course, is that you can move them in 3 fret jumps, and it's exactly the same notes. These shapes kind of are inversions of themselves. So I'm just doing that. I'm actually just playing the top 3 notes of that shape, taking it up 3 frets, and then I'll come home to C again. I'm playing 12, 10, 12, which is like a C6 kind of a sound. So the little harmonic lick, the same as before, and more country bending kind of stuff here. So we're just thinking out of the C shape here. So little bending idea. So 9 and 8, just bending the lowest note there, coming down to this double stop. It's a partial G triad is another way of seeing that. So, and that's my solo. If I just put all of that together. Okay, this is turning into a bit of an epic video, but we're nearly there. We're into the final A section, the final verse, and here I returned once again to the main theme, but with a couple of little fills and variations. So kicked off with the same shapes I was using before. Just a variation on the melody here. So here I'm just playing single notes. So this is the bit that I was playing with double or triple stops before, but here I'm just playing it on the B string. It's a little fill here, so some double stops, so 7 and 5. Another one of these minor second intervals. I think this is the same notes that I was using before. Now I'm playing them a bit lower down the neck over that A minor chord. And then I think I did this. But further little variations. So it's the melody, and this time I've got a high C on top. This C triad lick, the same as before. Coming down to the A. Now it slows down, we're into the ending, so I'm just playing the F minor. Some single notes here. And then just descending these same shapes as before, so 5, 4 and 5. Coming down to C. You can play 3 note shapes or just 2 note shapes, double stops. I think I actually ended with this chord here, so a C, 6, 9. So you've got the root at the 3rd fret, 2, 2, 3 and 3. Nice dramatic ending chord. And then why not have that little harmonics hook at the very end of the tune. So that's my final verse if I just put all of that together. Okay, I think we just about made it, and I hope it's not been overkill with the detail in this video. And I do want to stress that all of the things that I've been talking about, the ideas, the concepts, are things that you can remove from this context and use elsewhere. It's stuff that I use absolutely all the time in all kinds of different situations. So things like thinking out of chord shapes, thinking in and around triad shapes, double stops, all of that stuff is incredibly useful. And just before I go, I should tell you about the gear that I'm using in today's video. If I don't do that, I know I'll get some questions about it. So using my Strat, and as I said, I wanted to use a guitar with a vibrato arm for this tune, so opted for the Strat. I'm on the neck pickup today and just keeping things very simple really, going into my Fender Princeton and just one pedal, which is the J Rocket Archer. So even though I've said this before, even though it's a clean sound, I often like just to have an overdrive on with the gain set very low. It just seems to fatten up the sound, and I think with the Archer it just adds a little bit of mid-range fatness. It maybe tames the high end a little bit as well. So I think to my ears that sounds a little bit better than just going into a very clean amp. And a little bit of reverb is coming from the amp. I might well add a touch of extra reverb inside the computer when I mix the audio to this video, but let me just give you the sounds here. So this is just the guitar going straight into the Princeton. And with the overdrive, and that's it for today's video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I really hope that some of you are going to have a crack at learning this tune, whether you want to learn my arrangement note for note or whether you just want to take that as a starting point and do things your own way. And also, I should emphasize that you can always simplify some of this stuff. If you're not yet at the stage where you can comfortably play some of the fancier licks in my arrangement, then just make it simpler. You can always just play the straight melody and it's still going to sound really cool. And just a reminder that the tab and backing track are going to be available on my Patreon page. And if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, then please do so. That would be much appreciated. And I hate saying that in these videos just because it's really boring, but it does actually help get my videos in front of more people and it helps this channel to grow. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time.